All right. So Emily said that she wanted to do emotions for this episode, and I brought out my handy dandy emotions board. I don't know, here, that I actually travel with. So it's like bent over here. But it's for those of you that are, listening on podcasts, sometimes we forget, is there's a X and Y axis. The X axis goes from like happy to sad. And in between, there's happy, caring, confident, high-low energy, apathetic, vulnerable, confused, fearful, angry, sad. And then in the Y-axis, it goes from mild, so like a bit of something, medium, strong. And under each, you can think of it like a grid. And under like happy, strong, there's like amazed, ecstatic, euphoric, exhilarated, overjoyed, thrilled. And then it goes to medium, which is like cheerful, delighted, in high spirits, lighthearted, optimistic, playful. And then mild is glad, grateful, pleased, content, satisfied. So there's like about 5 to 7 emotions in each box, depending on the main emotion that you're feeling and the intensity of it.
So why do you travel with this and how are you using it? That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about this. I just like pull this out. So this came from a course that I did called Relating Between the Lines, which is about depths of conversation to help you feel less lonely as you and connect deeper with people. So in that course, the premise of it is that there's different levels of conversation. So I don't even remember what level 1, level 2 are. I think it's just like, hey, small talk. Like, how do you go from small talk to like deep conversations is what it's about. And then so I think level 3 is about like talking about things. And then level 4 is like talking about your emotions, but about other things, like how you feel about Coachella, like the concert, how you feel about this podcast, like things that like you're just kind of being more vulnerable about how you feel. And then the final level is like how you feel about the other person, not just like as a whole, but like how did you saying this make me feel? And so with all of those things, like as you bring emotions, like emotions are actually the punctuation of talk. If you think about like when you write, you put an exclamation mark, you put an emoji, but oftentimes like it's really, really hard to be congruent in like a very dense topic. Like if you're trying to say something vulnerable, oftentimes like we freeze up and we try to deliver it in a very logical way. At least when I'm stressed, I'm like extra logical in the way that I come off. I try to be like super calm and like delivered to like almost hide what I'm really feeling inside. But sometimes like you need to be like, oh, I'm actually feeling really like, I don't know, like nervous, alarmed, or like aggravated, etc. Like it like having more emotions in your dictionary better helps you express and get into like the level 5 conversations. So that's why.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that like when you're like stressed, you manage it from a logical standpoint. I think I'm the opposite of you, where I'm like, when I have my emotions, they're big and you definitely know they're there. And I'm like more like explosive about it. And then it disappears after a while. But
yeah, no, I mean, actually when stress hits, I did some like quiz way back when I was still in school. And it said that when I'm stressed, I get more emotional. It's true. But I think I've compensated for that because like, yeah, when you like want to say something vulnerable, let's say you've like prepared for it too. Like you want to say something vulnerable, it's so hard to deliver in a vulnerable way. Or like it's hard to tell someone that you're really feeling sad, you know? But where I use this a lot is that like oftentimes we just don't know how we feel and therefore like it's hard to express. And so I use it for two things. One is like I prepare for conversation. So with Relating Between the Lines, like the course, it taught me how to like listen better and speak better, like giving me a toolkit. Like for example, listening, there's like mirroring and like affirmation. And like on the speaking side, you can do like a temperature check. Like, oh, this is actually, I think it'll be really hard for me to share this. And then after you can be like, oh, that actually was easier than I thought. It just like helps people like clue in. There's also like boundaries. Like those are all just different toolkits that you can use. But when I'm preparing for a conversation, I look at that board and I want to be able to like better remind myself to insert certain emotions in the way that I deliver. And then usually when it's like a reaction time, like, so that's like even for work or like conversations I have online because I'm nomadic. And then with Owen, my husband, like oftentimes when we have hard conversations, we pull out that board. It's like, because sometimes like, you just wake up feeling some kind of way and you're just like, I don't know what I feel. And it's so hard to dissect. And then so we bring each other this board and we're like, look at this board. Yeah, and let's talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I brought this topic up too because I feel like from children, we're like basically learning how to regulate our emotions better, especially now that we're like more like self-assured and more instilled in our own like values and beliefs as we're like nearing our 30s. So like I guess for you like how do you think you've recently like developed when it's like regulating your own emotions and like because you've done a lot of work too. I think you've done a lot of inner work and like, you know, how to like speak to people effectively, how to communicate effectively. Like what are the things you've seen change since like, I don't know, maybe when you were younger to now?
I was never actually, I don't feel as many negative emotions. Like, so why I really wanted to do this topic was because you were like, oh, like I'm angry or whatever, and like I have trouble containing it. I almost never feel anger.
That's really
I actually
good.
just talked about it with Owen and like another friend this week, and I was like, I don't know when I was ever angry for more than like 15 minutes.
That's really good.
I just don't feel it. Nor like sad. I don't remember the sad things. I feel like I do experience sadness and I can be sad for a day or two, but then I just roll over.
Yeah. I think I'm similar to you where like I don't experience sadness per se, but it's usually like happy 99% of the time and then 1% angry.
Wait, so you don't experience like confidence?
Oh, I do.
Apathetic, vulnerable, fearful. You don't.
But those
experience
are
fear, you
emotions.
experience fear.
I don't know if confidence is okay. Maybe on this board. Okay, so I do experience happiness, caring, confidence.
Turns out Emily is realizing she has more emotions than she thought. She's like, I'm only happy and angry.
Because generally, I'm just like in a good mood, you know, for like the most part. But
a good mood can be like you're feeling any of these upper.
That's true. So
states.
Maybe I feel like half of the board.
Okay.
But then I think the only on the other side, it's mostly just like angry.
You don't feel confused? You feel confused and fearful. You tell me all the time, you're like, what do I do with my life? That's not happy or angry.
Okay.
That's
but then
fearful,
I'm still happy, but confused. Okay. But yes to the vulnerable.
So you're probably just mild, right? Like you're probably like
mild.
Like when we're talking about like, oh my gosh, what do I do with the rest of my life? You can be like unsure or unsettled.
Oh yeah.
Or uncertain. Right? Like it's just a mild version.
Yeah.
So remember that there's a y-axis too.
Of like strong, medium,
you might not
mild.
feel like baffled or like overwhelmed. You do feel powerless, stumped. I feel all of those things for sure.
Taken aback.
It's just adding more vocabulary.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I don't know. I'm like trying to think of like going back to like my personality. I feel like I feel strongly about certain things. So when I feel like boundaries have been overstepped or when I'm not being heard, that's when I get angry. And usually I think I'm such an easygoing person that it takes like level 100 for me to get my point across, and then people are like, oh shit, like Emily's really mad. So I think that's why maybe I like lash out.
You like you hide it in, right? Like you boil it and then you explode. So do you find confrontation hard then?
I don't.
Wait, then why don't you confront someone when
because I feel like at this age I'm kind of just like it's okay to let things go from time to time, but I think I'm still quite confrontational, like in some ways where I'm like, if I don't like something, I think like most people know that like I'll definitely like voice it, I guess. But I don't think I like yell at people or like I'm not that person to do it. But I think I will be like, hey, like I didn't like that, or like
really you're kind of scary when you say it. Like
oh yeah,
when you're confrontational, she's scary. Yeah.
Or I think, but the most people I'm confrontational with, I would say, is probably with my sister.
Right, because you know that so this is something else that I learned, right? That like the people that you are angry with or like that you're congruent with, which is basically like congruence is like you sound like the emotion that you're trying to express. Because like, you know, when someone's just like, oh, this doesn't upset me at all. And then you don't think it upsets them. Or like, this upsets me. You don't think it really does.
Like
because, like, it's just a tone of voice and the body language. And like, you know, like I really think the people that we're most like that you're willing to do something that that this course also talks about is heartbreak over harmony. It's like, who are you willing to potentially like be upset with, right? Like to feel negative emotions with are the people that you actually care for. Like, why do you care to express how you feel to people that you don't even care about?
Oh.
And like for Jasmine, like she's your sister, you feel comfortable
that's true
that she's not gonna like
leave me forever. Yeah, because we're like blood. Right. Yeah.
So there's that. And then also like expressing your discontent, it's because you value the relationship.
Yeah.
Right. That's like your end goal of like, you made me mad and I hope that you'll do better. Like, or like do something different.
That's very true. Because you want improvement in this relationship. Otherwise you would just be like, I don't care about it and like move on. Right. It's funny. Emotions are a funny thing, right? Like I think self-regulation, like the way that I self-regulate now, I think before I was like really quick to like text something or like kind of just like pop off. Now I'm like, I will read it and then I just like don't say anything. And then I'm like, okay, I'll come back to it later. But yeah, I think text has been kind of hard because you never know what people are actually trying to say, right?
That's where the emojis and the exclamation marks, whatever, come in.
Emojis.
Yeah. In fact, if you use too many emojis, it's like, oh, are you like, you know, weird or like try hard or something? Oh,
yeah.
Playing games and text, no fun.
Yeah. With emotions, what is something that you're like trying to work on?
I mean, definitely better understanding how I feel, better expressing my negative side, because I don't like to express sad or angry or like
take a
fearful.
Yeah.
Like I'm like very much like it's easy for me to be happy around someone, and I am that, right? Like 99% of the time.
Yeah.
But I feel like no one wants to. I don't want to be a downer. And I don't think, but I've realized that, you know, I want my friends to express those emotions to me.
Yeah.
And that's like how you grow. And part of it is like you need to be able to be vulnerable in front of your friends too. Especially when we're like traveling all the time. It's like just hard to like, you know, when you catch up, you don't want to be talking about like downer things all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. I think when my friends are more vulnerable with me and like like I realize like when I catch up with people, they give you like the highlight reel, right? But I think what makes me feel closer to you is like what you're going through, the pain, emotion, like, you know, some like, so I think it's not like being a Debbie Downer, but it's more of like, oh, you're sharing a very deep thought with your friends.
Yeah. So I'm trying to be better about that. What else am I working on? Just understanding what I feel is the biggest one. And planning. I didn't know that you can plan to have difficult conversations. I thought you just like plop in, but turns out you can like plan. You can be like, okay, this is how I'm going to disclose, right, myself. Like the reason, this is how I'm going to put my skin in the game. Like as in, I want to ask how you feel, or like I want to ask some questions. I can be like, this is the reason I want to know, and this is how I feel first. Or like I can express my emotions around something. And it's not just like a, you know, here's how. Like I used to be like a freaking one-way like projection, right? And like I think that has been like the biggest realization. I'm like, I think as a kid, you're just like, okay, I need to go have this conversation. Or like the guy that you like or something. You're like, okay, I'm ready to like go and like spill. But like that's like the wrong way to take things. It needs to be like a back and forth. It's a dance. The conversation is a dance. Emotions are a dance. And I think that's what I've realized. Here's the board.
Oh God. Let me see. I think for me, recently it's been trying to set more boundaries with people, right? Because I think, again, like because we run a community, because we're like doing 100 things, I sometimes feel like my boundaries are being encroached on by people that I like either know me really well or don't know me really well, and they just want a lot of my time. And I think that's really frustrating, actually, because I'm like, I'm so busy, and like it annoys me when I'm like, you know, I don't want to like say names, but like, you know, if I spend time with someone and that person's like just on their phone during dinner, it annoys the shit out of me. Right? There's just like certain boundaries where, or like people are always like, oh, like a person wants to set me up with like 3 of her guy friends. I appreciate it, but she's like being really pushy about it.
Right.
So there's stuff like that.
I mean, those are all like communication errors on their end too. So they made it like more about what they think you want instead of like a dance of like talking about it.
Yeah. So I think I need to articulate better of like where I am right now, which is like I'm feeling overwhelmed because like I just got back from Asia. You're trying to set me up with 3 guys, right? And like I'm literally trying to do a bunch of other things and like figure out where I'm headed next. So
right. And you appreciate that they're watching out for you, right? So yeah, like all those things. Yeah.
But I think for me, it's really like setting boundaries and like articulating them well so that they don't feel offended and I can keep a good relationship. But also like the level of people, there's too many people in my life. Like I think that's why I get so frustrated sometimes. And I just like disappear because I'm like, I don't want to deal with people anymore.
That's such a normal thing. Like tons of people are like, oh yeah, I'm like super social one season. And then you're like overwhelmed. And then you're like, oh, I'm going to retreat back into my hermit hole again. But speaking of boundaries, though, I like advice or like what I've learned about boundaries is that like there's actually like 3 different types of boundary setting. Okay. One is like it's a redirect. You're like, can we talk about this later? Or like for you in your case, like a friend setting you up with guys, you're like, give me a second. Like, let's have this conversation later. I'm just not ready right now. I'm like feeling like tired and like overwhelmed. Okay. You redirect for another time. It says that like, hey, I'm open to having this conversation.
Like later.
Yeah. And then number 2 is like the way that you're approaching this is not working for me right now. Let's try a different way.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like saying that I'm still ready to have this conversation, but the way that you're approaching this is not right. Or it's like either maybe some like too emotional or like too direct, or like I need to express how I feel first, or like, you know, you dance around. We need to do a different dance.
Yeah.
And then the final one is like hard stop. I'm like uncomfortable with what's going on. So
Yeah.
that's the hardest to like be like, hey, I'm not feeling this right now. And it's so hard to tell someone that like you're not feeling a conversation, you're not feeling like
You're like, you want that. So not to say I do the hard stop, but I do where it's like I just don't respond or like I disappear.
I would say that's like at least do one of those three. You know, at least tell them to stop. Or you're just like, hey, like let's do this later, and this is why. Yeah.
But it's been interesting. And I also feel like people think that I respond quite quickly or I'm like always available. And I think that's why I'm like, okay, I need to change this like persona that I have, right? So yeah, it just like wears me down. And I don't think I'm as sociable as I used to think I was.
I mean, that'll also over time you get less. Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, looking at this board, I would be I think resentful.
Ah!
Oh, why?
You're resentful of like, you know, people grabbing your time? Is that what?
No, not that. Or just like
yeah. Actually, let's do this. This is a great way to conclude this episode.
Yes.
What do you feel right now as we talk about this? It can be anything that we talked about today, right? Like, and why?
Actually, I think like frustrated, impatient, and irritated.
Wait, you're feeling angry right now under the angry category.
Yes, I'm actually not. Well, when I talk about it, yeah. But I think again, it's maybe like a self thing. Like I think I need to better articulate like my needs.
Does it feel better once you've like articulated? Yeah,
I think so.
Like the right word, because sometimes we get frustrated that we aren't even saying the right things.
Yeah, but it's weird because I don't think I'm like angry per se, but I think these are like
you're mild angry. Yeah. Not angry, just mild angry.
Like
mildly angry.
I'm the angry Asian girl.
I am feeling, I would say on the higher end, on the caring maybe side.
Because you're giving me advice.
I feel like more like medium, mild. I'm feeling caring on the medium, mild side. Yeah, I feel close to, intrigued.
The way that you are.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's great. I didn't know all these things about you, you know?
What do you know? That I like harbor a lot of anger?
Affectionate.
Aww,
you know?
nice.
All those things. Yeah. Yay. Okay. But like, so in the class, you usually do like a one-word checkout, which is basically what I said. It's like, oh, how do you feel now? And then like, actually, if we were to have a real conversation, I'd be like, oh yeah, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate you for like trusting me, you know, and sharing that you're really just a mildly angry person. That wasn't good mirroring. But like, yeah, I would like kind of repeat back what you said. But I totally understand that like it can be really frustrating when like people are grabbing your time. And then I'd be like, yeah, but like I feel very close to you right now, you know?
Yeah.
And then how would you react? And then we can end this.
Now I'm sheepish a little bit because I'm like mildly vulnerable. But I'm also very grateful to have you in my life and to like kind of help me with this. And also, let's see, hopeful.
Yeah.
And close to, because I feel like I actually don't share this kind of stuff with people. Though I think most people, I mean, do I seem like an angry person?
No.
Yeah, exactly.
No. But like when someone like butts you in line, or like when you actually you get angry when you think of hypothetical scenarios that would make you angry. Kind of right now, but also like once in a while you'd be like, I don't fucking want to do it. Yeah, or whatever. And like it's not like anyone's making you, just like imagining yourself in that situation and you get like kind of angry. Have you watched Beef?
I have.
Oh my god. Really?
But it's okay. I'm a mild version of that.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks guys. I hope you use like, just find like Wheel of Emotions online. And like, you know, this is like such a great toolkit for conversations and emotions. Cool. Bye.
I'm the baddest chick. I'm not a thick. I'm about my business. Chill